Hello. Ah, Pendengar kan? Yalah, saya lift lah. Pendengar kan? Hello? Tes, tes, tes. Tes, tes.
Good morning and welcome everyone. We will begin shortly. Allow me to share a few reminders before we get started. Firstly, the organizer will share on the screen the sign in and sign out codes in the beginning and at the end of the webinar. Registered participants are required to scan or log in to the link at the end of the webinar and fill in the codes as proof of attendance for the purpose of CPD or CCD points. Secondly, if there are any questions that you would like to ask or any points that you need more clarification on, please feel free to direct them to our speakers by typing the name of the speaker and your question in the live Facebook or live YouTube comment section at any point during the presentation. Lastly, please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to UCTS official page in Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you. Good morning and welcome everyone. So once again, I would like to share a few reminders before we get started. Firstly, the organizer will share on the screen the sign in and sign out codes in the beginning and at the end of the webinar. Registered participants are required to scan or log in to the link at the end of the webinar and fill in the codes as proof of attendance for the purpose of CPD or CCD points. Secondly, if there are any questions that you would like to ask or any points that you need more clarification on, please feel free to direct them to our speakers by typing the name of the speaker and your question in the live Facebook or live YouTube comment section at any point during the presentation. And lastly, please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to UCT's official page in Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Khairuddin Abdul Hamid, Vice Chancellor of University College of Technology Sarawak UCTS, Yang Setia Khairuddin bin Rahman alias Husaini, Penolong Kanan Pesuruhjaya Bomba, Dr. Peng Tu from Institute of Public Safety Research Tsinghua University, Associate Professor Dr. Chen Jiangguo from Department of Engineering Physics, Tsinghua University, Associate Professor Architect Haris Fadzila Abdul Rahman, Dean, School of Built Environment, Head of Center for Borneo Regionalism and Conservation, BORC, Associate Professor Dr. Wong Sing Sing, Director of Center for International Relations, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Challenges in Managing Fire Safety in Rural Areas of Sarawak webinar, organized by Center for Borneo Regionalism and Conservation, UCTS, in collaboration with Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department and Tsinghua University, China. Before we begin, I would like to once again remind all participants to register your attendance by keying in the sign-in code shown at the screen. And should you have any questions or remarks that you would like to share with any of the speakers, please leave your message in the comment section and I will read the questions for our speakers during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our webinar session today, it is with great pleasure that I invite our beloved Vice Chancellor, Yang Berbahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Khairuddin Abdul Hamid to deliver his welcoming remarks. Yang Berbahagia.
Thank you very much, Nadira, for the introduction. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and very good morning. Yang Setia, Senior Assistant Fire Commissioner, Khairuddin bin Rahman, so Director of Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department. Assistant Professor Dr. Chen Jiangguo of the Institute of Public Safety Research at Tsinghua University, Beijing. And of course, Dr. Peng Du, principal investigator from the Institute of Public Safety Research of Tsinghua University in Beijing, China. My colleague is Professor Architect Haris Fadzila Abdul Rahman. Is the Dean, School of Built Environment, and also the person in charge for the Center for Borneo Regionalism and Conservation at UCTS. And also on my right is Professor Dr. Wong Sing Sing. He's the Director for Center for International Relations at UCTS. Dear participants, my colleagues from UCTS, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of UCTS, I'm very pleased and delighted to welcome all of you to this webinar entitled Challenges in Managing Fire Safety in Rural Areas of Sarawak, organized in collaboration with the Fire and Rescue Department Sarawak and Institute of Public Safety Research of Tsinghua University, China. I would like to thank the Director of Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department, Yang Setia, Senior Assistant Fire Commissioner, Khairuddin bin Rahman, and Assistant Professor Dr. Chen, Dr. Pendu, for your participation as speakers for this seminar, and also sharing your knowledge and experience to the participant later on. Actually, I visited Institute of Public Safety Research with Wong at Tsinghua University, Beijing in October 2019, where we signed an MOU to collaborate in many areas that we plan to organize, such as academic, research, staff exchange, and of course, to organize workshop and seminar like this. Then we also visited another branch of their institute in FA, in the Anhui province, where we saw the facilities and the research work that they have done. I was very impressed, both at the Beijing center and also the one in Naipu. And immediately after that, we plan to organize workshop or seminar like this. Actually, we planned to organize it in April last year. But of course, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to postpone. And eventually, we cannot wait much longer. So I would like to thank Dr. Wasin Singh and also Architect Haris for organizing this webinar so that we can continue with our collaboration. So ladies and gentlemen, as a background, house fires are actually a common and devastating incident that occurs in Malaysia every year. But not many of us know the exact number or the statistics of these house fires cases in Malaysia. According to the statistics from the Malaysian Fire and Rescue Department, that between 2011 and 2017, house fires are the highest building-related fire to be recorded, amounting around 2,000 to 4,000 reported cases each year. The numbers are very alarming and very upsetting for everybody because they not only cause loss of properties, but also human life. Close to home here in Sarawak, many fire cases reported happen in the rural and remote areas where logistics proved to be a major challenge. With an area of close to 125,000 square kilometers, Sarawak is a very big state, consisting of rainforest, peat swamps, rivers, and mountain ranges. And Sarawak's rugged terrain has led to many small community of population living in rural areas that have limited access to basic infrastructure and amenities, such as water, electricity, road, and transportation. As such, rural areas are considered as critical areas, as it can be rather challenging to reach them on time in cases of fire. Moreover, in Sarawak, most of the long houses in the rural areas can be considered as traditional long houses that have existed for decades and should be considered as Sarawak's heritage. Such long houses should and was to be protected for their rich history and also to preserve the local knowledge. For example, 2 nights ago, there was a case of fire outbreak in a long house, not very far from our university, called a town called Kenawit. Making it involved 20 families, and nearly 50 people are left homeless. So this incident actually happened quite regularly here in Sarawak. So I think measures should be taken to prevent fire damages through, I think, proper education and awareness program on the importance of fire prevention and safety among the longhouse communities in the rural areas. This can be done through cooperation between local community, educational institutions like UCTS, and other relevant government agencies like the Fire and Rescue Department. There is a need for concerted effort with all parties involved to ensure that rural areas are not left behind, especially in terms of fire prevention and safety. As Sarawak is now advancing into the digital technology and Industrial Revolution 4.0, therefore we should incorporate smart solutions such as the use of IoT, drones, and creative engineering solutions into the firefighting effort in the rural areas. And also by exploring and combining current practices, new ideas, and also learn from experts that we can adopt through local and also international collaboration. So ladies and gentlemen, today's webinar on challenges in managing fire safety in rural areas of Sarawak. I hope it will enhance and to give a better understanding and to provide a platform for collaboration between universities, academia, government agencies, and also the community, so that we can help to prevent further negative impact of house fires in the rural areas in Sarawak. And I hope we can work together and to focus on opportunities to come up with better and practical solution in managing fire safety here in Sarawak or anywhere else. Finally, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Center for Borneo Regionalism and Conservation of BOC and Center for International Relations of UCTS for their commitment and dedication in making this event a success today. I also would like to congratulate and express my thanks to the organizing committee, to the technical team here in UCTS for making this webinar possible. It's also my sincere hope that this collaboration between UCTS, Institute of Public Safety Research of Tsinghua University, is the beginning of more activities in the near future. Hopefully, we will be able to organize physical and face-to-face event after the pandemic is over. Finally, I would like to express my sincere thanks to Yang Setia, Penolong Kanan Putrajaya Bomber, Herudin bin Rahman, dan juga selaku pengarah dan bomber dan penyelamat Sarawak, for your support and sharing your experience with the participant today. Actually, Yang Setia, during this COVID-19 pandemic, UCTS has been working closely with your department here in Sibu and Sungai Merah to facilitate the movement of our students and also to sanitize and disinfect our campus and our transport vehicle. We also collaborate with your department here to produce face shield to be used by the frontliners during this pandemic. So I would like to thank you again, and I look forward to our continuous cooperation in the future. To the participant, once again, thank you for your support, and I hope you will be able to make us aware of the challenges that we face here in Sarawak with regards to fire outbreak in the rural areas of Sarawak, and to be able to make some changes and improvement in the way we educate, we manage, and also mitigate the impact of fire outbreaks here, especially in Sarawak. So once again, thank you everybody, and have a fruitful seminar and deliberation. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Dato'. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our first speaker for today, Yang Setia Penolong Kanan Putrajaya Bomba Herudin bin Rahman alias Husaini, currently the Director of Fire Rescue Department Malaysia, FRDM Sarawak. Yang Setia holds a Master of Science in Emergency Response Planning from University Putra, Malaysia. He is a recipient of Japan International Cooperation Agency JICA and is a trained personnel of HAZMAT, Sweden. He is also a member of the Institution of Master in Disaster and Emergency Management Malaysia since 2000, even acting as the president from 2016 to 2019. Recipients of numerous promotions, awards, appreciations, and medals, Young Satya is very active in spreading awareness to the public regarding fire safety, and has been invited to give talks, interviews, workshops, and forums involving professional bodies throughout the country. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute honor to invite Young Satya Hiruddin bin Rahman alias Hussaini to deliver his talk entitled Growing Concern on Fire Safety in Rural Areas of Sarawak. Young Satya.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. On behalf of Fire Leadership Department of Sarawak, we'll be very grateful to share our experience exposure in terms of fire safety, especially for the community of Sarawak. And today the paper we are sharing is a growing concern of fire safety in rural areas of Sarawak. And we're talking about the fire we are facing, what is the challenges, how we managing and reduce the losses or the occurrence of fire happening in long houses or rural areas. When you look at this video, very short video about this is one of the cases happened in Belaga last 2 years. And when you look at it, the pain, the agony, and also the suffering that people are facing. So how we try to overcome this problem? And this is happening since many years. When I was the fire station officers of Cebu Central Zone, we have been facing this problem. And when you look at Sarawak itself, as mentioned by the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sarawak itself, the challenges, the land area, the river, the forest, geographical condition and size, low people population, modest level of development, poor infrastructure, basic facilities, accessibility. This is the question that we are always facing. Accessibility, communication, logistics, and very challenging. Fire cover are very minimum, and we try to improve actually fire cover. And recently we conducted a survey on total fire cover for Sarawak, and we need at least 60 fire stations. But at the moment we are operating on 35 fire stations. This is very crucial and very critical. This also, what we observe is that the challenges, the number of fire cases quite serious, the number of major fire cases involving rural areas, long houses fire, small villages, and it's almost happening in a quite remote, and response time more than 150 kilometers away. And 150 kilometers away, it requires 1 hour plus. And when you look at normal fire, 15 minutes, you can consider a house, small house on fire. 15 minutes, we can consider the land for sale. This means total losses. And it is impossible. And when you look at the community, it's an unsafe ABC, act, behavior, and condition. We are the one. Lack of fire safety knowledge, physical and property safety, and of course, the number of long houses and small villages is quite accelerated. In Sarawak itself, based on the statistics that we see, almost 4,900 long houses that we need to go. And most of these long houses are situated at the river. And accessibility for the fire service, really the fire engine respond to this type of fire, quite impossible. But of course, we try to reduce it through other means. Next one. And we look at presently we have Fire Service Act, Uniform Wooding Bylaw, Sarawak Wooding Ordinance, Guide to Fire Protection Act. That is where we apply this regulation, whereby we regulate buildings. talk about fire safety. In major city, in big city, no problem. But when you look at long houses, remote villages, this law doesn't apply because residential under the law and are no requirement. This is something that we have to look into, how we to amend. Of course, to make sure that the residential, private residential regulate under the law, we have to think about the cost. But through a concerted effort, we try to build the community. And through this one, we need to look at the statistics involving long houses. And in 2015 to 2020, you see the number of long houses. Average almost every month there's a fire. And every month, and during the number of fire during the festive season, coming to April, May, June, and July, August, whereby people celebrate. And sometimes the element of 3L. In Sarawak, it's 3L. Lupa, lalai, leka. People negligent. So how we should address. This is the one focus that if we have to look into the challenges happening in Sarawak. We have to look at that not because of the remoteness of the facilities or the long houses, but their people. And through my observation from 2015 to 2020, we have to look into the most important ingredient in this one element is their people. And we look at the time of fire. From 6 morning, afternoon, the number of fire happening because most of the people are not at home. Really wrong houses. Most of the elders, the young men, the people, they went to the farming, they went to the garden, and only left the old kids at home at long houses. And when there a small fire happening, these people are going to tackle the fire. And normally these people, they just look, shout, and run away, save themselves. And when the man came back, too late already. The fire at a growth stage and not easy to fight. So what they can do is just watch the long houses burn to the ground. And this is very sad to see. And we try to look at this is the number, the trend, 2017-18. That's why when we almost 2018 took over as a head director of Sarawak, we'll try to look into these cases, how we're going to address it. Of course, educating the public itself, really the long houses box, it requires a lot of engagement. And we can do that through 4,900 long houses. And we have to collaborate with other agencies to make sure that the message across reach the community itself. And this is the number of, based on 2015, 2020, the losses and sales. You see the number of sales and losses. Losses is they get 59%, almost 98 million. That's property damage. But we forget about those antiques, the old collections of from generation to generation, burn, but that loss. But money we can find, but sentimental value of this antique is something that we are looking at one, so quite sad. And this is a critical issue that we have to look into. When you look at authority, the government agency, the law is there, but how we should amend the law accordingly to meet the requirement of the local community. If you look at the law itself, SBO, Sarawak Building Ordinance, it's only concentrate on building in cities. We regulate the one. But when you look at private residential, no requirement. Only basic requirement. For example, terrace houses, we require fire hydrant, and those high price apartment or condominium requirement of basic fire fighting equipment, fire extinguisher. But private residential, no requirement. And this is the issue that maybe we have to amend a bit of this, the law that is Sarawak Ordinance to make sure that we regulate, or maybe we have to enforce, to force the community to own or to have at least one basic fire extinguisher for them to extinguish the fire at least. First 5 minutes is very critical. If they can tackle the fire at first 5 minutes, It means they are strengthened. The second one is designer. Of course, professional coming in. Now we have a lot of new discussion with FAM, land to look into what is the best possible way to build what you call a safe long houses. Even when you look at in America, in Japan, they have very good buildings. They comply to it, but still fire happens to them. That's why I said it's nothing to do with whether design or remoteness. But always back to the people itself, because the people who are going to use that building, when they fail to comply to unsaid ABC, act, behavior, and condition, then they're inviting the fire. And of course, I remind the participants that means fire is uninvited case. The moment you have this element 3L, lupa, lalai, forgetfulness, or negligence, you are inviting the fire. So this is something that we have to do. Then builders. Of course, when you look at major city, builders build the building according to fire safety requirements. Based on authority requirement, designer, what they build. Then of course, the inspectors. These are the people who enforce. And when you look at the fire happening in long houses, to enforce and regulate, the law doesn't give us. We cannot enforce the law with the long houses, or we can only give advice, advocation. We can advocate with them. This is the unsafe behavior and unsafe condition. You are the one who going to determine whether you are safe or not. Issue. Then of course the last one, it involves all type of community, the people. When we're talking about the people, we are the one. Of course, some people said, "Oh, you are pengarah bomba, director bomba." Yes, but fire still a threat to me because the moment myself or my family fail to comply to fire safety, and we not put fire safety as our culture, it become our habit. Then we are the one who invite the fire. And normally, most of the cases of fire, when we talk to the people during our investigation, always the blame off because of this, because of this. But we never forget to point the finger to us. We are the one. Because the fire started because of you. And this is how to tackle the issues, the best approach to minimize it. Because fire, since people discover fire, since the Great London fire, since a lot of big fire happening in the world, we cannot single fire. Firefighting is a losing battle. If you win, if you lose, total, it can involve not only your property, environment, but your life. So the best way that what I can observe during this one is a 5E approach. First, engineering. Second, education. Third, enforcement. Fourth, emergency management. And economic initiative. This is the element that we try to look into. For example, engineering. Of course, when you enforce engineering side in terms of passive and active requirement of building. Material use. Of course, when material improve, it involves cost. And of course, to build long houses, which is all fire-rated material, is very costly. And so we have to look into the best possible way engineering in terms of, for example, using all long houses spray with intermittent paint to make sure that when fire it takes a longer period to spread. But the intermittent paint is very expensive. Then the second one is education. When you talk about education, this is the best what I call ingredient that I observed. That's why when I came here 2018, I looked at it and then I told my officers that means education will be the main issue that we have to address this approach. Of course, enforcement, long houses, we cannot bring them to court. This is the issue. We can tell them this is right, this is wrong. They listen to you at the time, but after that they forget. So enforcement is not easy. So education, we have to advocate at the particular. Emergency management. This is another issue that through education and emergency management, we try to teach all long houses people. That's why we have program of Bomba community, community emergency response team. We have is Bomba Skorela, Celek Suri. All the elements of program was given to them to make sure that during emergency, how the people respond to the small fire. Normally, 99% of fire started with small fire. It doesn't, unless in petroleum plant explosion. But normally, fire start with small fire. First 5 minutes is very critical. If they can tackle the fire, minor fire remain minor. If not, it become major, escalating to a crisis. It can escalate into another level of disaster. And if they cannot tackle one, it can become catastrophic. So this is the issue that we have, emergency management. How they manage at early stage. And what people say that a great fire can be extinguished by a cup of water if you strike at the right time. That means the people at the site, people who respond to the fire, they must have the ability to do the fire emergency management. The fifth one is economic necessity. Of course, the government has to encourage the long-houses people, the rural, for them to look into education and education. We have to give them some incentive. That's why during a fire, after the police one, then JKM coming in, YB coming in, bring a lot of things to happen. Why don't we change our mindset? We do a proactive. Instead of reactive, we go a proactive. We give information, we give them the tools for them to tackle the fire at early stage. For example, like fire extinguisher. Last 2 days, recent fire in Longhouses in Sarawak. When we do the investigation, they have fire extinguishers, but already overdue. Can be used. Small fire. And few cases reported. A lot of those maintain the fire extinguishers. Small fire they tackle. And when we arrive, the fire is put up. Small, just involve only a small village, a small room. This is something that we have to look into. And when we want to share all this success story about those people who managed to come instead of China, Australia, building the community, how the community can be resilient in terms of fire safety, how they take care of fire. For example, in Malaysia now, when there's a fire happening, a lot of people run to the site, but with handphones. This is something that we need to change. They took pictures from the fire, small fire become the bigger fire. They can comment, but they never tackle the fire. But when you observe New Zealand and Australia, every community, the neighbors, start bringing their fire extinguishers at that site, helping the owner to extinguish the fire. And the other issue is that when there's a fire happens, when we ask them, why you have fire extinguisher, why you don't have your neighbor? The answer is that, very sad. Who's going to pay the cost of this fire extinguisher if I use? Then the same question we can ask them. If something happens to your house, if the neighbors say the same thing, what happened? So this is something very, very tough job for Bomba, for the community to change. Then how we build a resilient fire safety community. And we require what we can say is that three P. People, and people. And we cannot blame the government. We say, oh, this is government. No, this is Bomba. No, it's people. And when it comes to people, involve me also. Even as a director of fire service, it involves the people. The university. It's all work of life. This means it covers whether it's a policeman. And 32 years in service, I observed the fire never failed its return. I've seen masjid, mosque fire. I've seen church fire. I've seen Tokong, Chinese. I've seen this fire can happen to everybody. And fire never failed its return. And it never been coming based on because of invitation. No. The moment we have that, there's people, there's three element, 3P. People always the ingredient of whether we can minimize or tackle the fire. And the challenges go back to the people. And we are sharing them. And how we're going to deliver it? Of course, now in Sarawak, we're talking about community brigades. We have summer camp, actually in northern of Sarawak Miri area with Petronas. We involve those long houses alongside the pipeline. They sponsor the program. We do the program, summer camp. We create a champion among the head of Tuan Rumah. Tuan Rumah, whereby the Tuan Rumah become the champion at that community and they advocate the fire safety. through a program, summer camp program. And now we have a program Celek Suri. Sedia urus risiko isi rumah. We try to among the ladies, housewives, how they can tackle the fire at least. Instead of running here and there shouting, how they use fire extinguisher, the proper way, how they use that things around them to extinguish the fire. Understand the fire, the characteristic of fire. How should they tackle the fire? And of course, the one that we are thankful to state and government of Sarawak and then Petronas, we have program community emergency response, whereby this is the program that we funded by Petronas and Sarawak government, community emergency response team. We train the local community. At least they can respond, at the same time also they can do advocating, advocate the people around them. Let them become the champion at the particular long houses. They reminding each other. No need for the fire service or the government agency to tell that they are the one, because they know that that's the risk. If they fail to do that, it can cause the long houses. So this, and when you look at it, we have to start young. So now we have a program called Club PKC, Student Fire Club. We will try to the students to understand the nature of fire, learn not to burn, the danger of fire, learn to get out and stay out, stay low during a fire. So this is all the elements. The moment with this kid become elder, they start embedded in the mind that what happened. For example, like we learn from Australia, New Zealand, how in Japan, how the students very sensitive when they see observe all these things that they learn at young age. Oh, this cannot, this cannot. This is something that we have to do. This is the long houses for the community itself have to work together with the fire service. And this is the message that always, when I first came, 1st October 2006, so Sarawak needs education to fight fire. Of course, when you need education, education what? This is very important education that you must have the knowledge to extinguish the fire. How you can work during that one, and this is something that we can work together. And so far, all the fire stations, 35 fire stations in Sarawak, have been instructed them to work together. Any community can come in, and we have to assist and facilitate them how whatever thing, and we never turn down. This is very important. Whoever come to see us for the fire safety talk, even to the extent some fire station we use as a CLC, Community Learning Center, whereby the children, the family can come in. What I observed when I did in Kuala Lumpur, Community Learning Center, what Malaysians did there, the parents, they send the kid there, they go back. They ask what time they finish, they collect back. But when I observe the foreigner, when they send the kid there, they sit together with the kid. This is something we have to learn. They take the opportunity to sit down, learn together with the kid, to get the children understand the danger of fire. The father, the mother, even some grandmother attend together. But in Malaysia, Malaysian, whether it's a Malay, Indian, or Chinese, they send the kid there. I said, what time finish? 11 o'clock, they pick up. But they don't want to participate. They thought it's very, very lousy work. But to forget about when you learn, teach your children at young age, no, the impact is different. That's what happened in New Zealand, Australia, and different. But we never see that. We only look like dollar and cents, what benefit us, but we never think that the knowledge that we embedded at a young age for the children will be, the impact will be less on. We don't know the benefit of it. So the analysis, total of what happened to total 124 outbreaks at long houses, particularly this topic related long houses were reported between 2015 and 2020. And we look at it, Cebu zone, the central zone, highest cases, followed by Seri Aman, Bintulu, and most of these long houses quite remote, Miri, Limbang, and Semarang. So why, how this thing happen? Because of accessibility. And sometimes people don't care. It's nothing. It won't happen to me. Even when I ask people when I conduct a program, who can confirm that fire will happen to them? Nobody there to say no. Because the moment we make mistake, the fire will happen. This is how we look at Cebu and Seri Aman, 3rd and 4th division of Sarawak. Have most number of houses in the state. And they can only reach by river. And most of the fires outbreak fail to overcome because they happen at 6 a.m., 6 p.m. And during the time, only children, as I mentioned earlier, elderly at home. But the elders, they all farming, doing this activity outside. And when they arrive home, it's too late already to tackle the fire. And most of the process of fire outbreak. When you look at it, critical short circuit with 54 cases, almost 60%. Gas equipment malfunctioning, embers, matches or lighters. This is start. Last time used to be oil lamp, candle. Then there's no electricity in the long houses. But now with the modernization, electricity, they start bringing equipment. And most of the long houses, the room, because the village, only single phase electrical capabilities. But they start bringing a lot of things. They forget that it means there will be overloading, there will be short circuit. This is almost the cases whereby cause fire, and when the fire happening, they just look. So to prevent this outbreak, what we can observe based on analysis that have to equip accident fire extinguisher. And now we have program Satu Rapi in Sarawak, even in national level. Satu rumah, satu alat terapi. One house, one extinguisher. This is one of the program that we try to do. But of course, because of this pandemic and also the amount of funding for the government to tackle the pandemic, we lose that budget. That's why now we work together with Petronas, those big companies, CSR, especially rumah panjang, the long houses. For private residential in cities, we ask them, encourage them to buy their own. But the long houses, remote villages, we try to get people who can fund under CSR program with the collaboration with all these agencies. Then now we try to make sure every house, every village must have a room, must have fire extinguisher. Then to form fire volunteers and rescue. Educate them about dangerous habits such as smoking and keeping boat engine fuel in the kitchen. Now they start using the store for the boat. They built away from the long haul. They don't mix together. Now start improving through education. A lot of engagement we done. Then we show that the success story what we did. This is a success story whereby the small children, the real hero, they managed to do that. When they notice a fire, they tackle the fire. So it saved the long houses. Only a small portion of the room for fire, but because early detection, they managed to extinguish the fire. Then this is a program we call it summer camp, where we involve the people in the this is we did last year in Mulu, whereby to involve the Mulu, because Mulu is quite remote and accessibility is by plane. Usually by boat, it takes you almost 10 hours, 10 to 12 hours, depend on the river. And we have to train them how to take care of the fire at early stage. The people listen. That's why we got people, and people. This is the statistics show that the long houses that they manage to extinguish a fire at early stage using extinguishers. This is a number that how they manage to save the long houses. How they manage, because the first 5 minutes is very important. How they tackle the fire. And create fire safety awareness. And this is what we did, the outcome of champion program and ownership program in total fire safety. When you look at community brigade, Bomba community, now we have almost what we call the 63 plus 2015 team, the number of people. 2019 we have trained 215 plus 63 2020. We just imagine now the number of people involving since 2020, 881 teams, 8,643 members. This is one community, and most of the cases fire happen at this particular long houses that involving this program with this community brigade. They managed to tackle the fire. This is success story that happening. And the champion is that the fire, the people is the community at that particular rumah panjang, long houses. When you look at the children, 3K children fire club, we have almost 11,000. We give to train to the children for the 6 modules. Learn not to burn, the danger of fire, how to escape fire, get up and stay out. So how they can sleep. Matches is not toys. So this is the element that we try to involve at a young age. And during summer camp, we already conducted 20 programs. And this program purely funded by Petronas. And also some YBs, they come under Manor Rural Project. They have the fund to do that. And recently, we just introduced in year 2020, Celek Suri, Sedia Urus Resiko Isi Rumah, whereby the housewife taught how to tackle. And when we look at community emergency response, it's another success story whereby the state government realized that we need to create a champion among the long houses head. They become resident. So we train almost, we conduct almost 40 programs, 8,624 members have been trained, and almost involving, not mistaken, almost half of long houses in Sarawak. And we need a lot. We need a lot of programs. We need people to come forward to work together with us. And this success program, when you look at the challenges, as I showed, the remoteness. If we look at remoteness, the terrain, the forest, it's been there for many, many years. Since when I was a station officer in Tipu in 1990, until I coming back as a state director of Sarawak, the reason is still the same. We start blaming or because of the river, because of the rugged terrain, because of the forest, because of the logistic. But we never look at the people itself. How people can become champions. That's why when I came here in 2018, I always mention about education. Education is the best ingredient, the best recipe for us to tackle the fire at Rumah Panjang. Of course, the 4 elements that we're talking about, critical issue, amending the law, that will be an issue that when we was talking about this critical issue. And when you look at it, this is something that we can do. And when you look at statistics, the number of losses start dropping. We managed to save a lot. And this is involving the whole community. Because firefighting is a losing battle. Nobody won the fire. And when you look at understanding, fire is not an illusion. It's real. It's real. So do practice. Practice and practice. And when I said do practice, everybody must know how to tackle. And fire safety is not in one-off event. Sometimes when I ask people, oh, I did train already last 10 years. No. Fire safety is not in one-off events. It should be what called repetition. They must be enhanced and everybody must involve. Everybody to be reminded. It should be advocated. It should be advocated continuously. It should become a culture. This is something that one will change. It becomes a culture. Because fire safety, when it comes to fire safety, our alertness. That's why when you look at people in, for example, Australia, when there's a fire, everybody run. Even a car accident involving fire, everybody run with extinguisher fire. But we still have that, how to say that behavior, how to say that, oh no, this is not my job, this is a bomba job, this is fire service job. No. Because when something happens to you, if you are not responding to others, people are not responding to you. It's just a karma. So this is very important that let the fire safety become our culture. And to require that, we need to look into a few. When we're talking about fire safety, another issue that fire security. And few cases, long hazard, for example, like 2020, when we investigate out of number of long hazard 21, 4 because of among they have problem in the hazard, start a fire. And out of that, why this happened? So we have to look into the fire safety and fire security. And these 2 important issues have to be addressed by everyone. I mean everyone. Not only fire service, not only the government agency, not the police, but everyone has the ability to make sure that fire safety and fire security become most important thing when they look into something. Educate fire safety knowledge, understand about fire behavior, understand fire better. And when it comes to fire, let us become the master, not the fire become our master, because fire is a bad master. So if we can use the fire according to our needs, this is the knowledge of understand the fire behavior better through education. And then of course, when you look at the law, amend the present law, there should be some amendment to make sure that we can regulate, we can enforce to make sure that people comply to fire safety at private residential. This is very important. Regulate and enforce. But when you look at it, three people, the community itself, they should self-regulated. Because when fire happens to you, it's about you, your family, your property. So if you don't regulate, self-regulated, your own home, this is something that we must look into. Why? Because it's our responsibility. And when we look at it, we have to act and change. This is the element that list the number of the challenges as mentioned by the Vice Chancellor about the challenges. It has been so many years ago, but we fail to change our mindset because we need to act and change. Be safe and stay safe. Just like what happened with the pandemic topic, just out of topic. When the government said, please comply to 3C, 3W. But people take it lightly. So what happened? This is something also like a fire. Fire is preventable. Fire can, when you apply a 3P, prevention, precaution, prevention, and protection. That means prevention, precaution, this is what we know. How precaution, our level of consciousness, our level of alertness, how we take care of it. Prevention, how we prevent through engagement with bomba, to the regulation, we prevent it from happening. We put steps to avoid fire from happening. Then the last one is protection. Whether you are protected with your knowledge, protected with your how you use the fire extinguisher. Of course, now people can buy good television set, good sofa at home. But when it comes to buying fire extinguishers, they always ask, did bomba provide the government product? Fire extinguishers only 120. The basic one is 150. That's a maximum. People don't want to buy because of knowledge, because of responsibility. We willing to buy sofa 4,000, 5,000 television set, but we forget about the fire extinguisher. So let me remind you about it, because unsafe act and unsafe ABC is us. Act, behavior, and condition is us. Good housekeeping. Sometimes we bring a lot of highly combustible material in our house. We create fuel. Then there's a fire, it becomes fuel to the fire. The fire will accelerate until the whole building burns. So this is something that I would like to see that how we can tackle this one. And to conclude my paper on fire safety, when you look at challenges, yes, the challenges has been there for many years. But how the people are campaigning this fire safety should look into it. That means we, the one. People. We should act and change, be safe and stay safe. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yang Setia Hiruddin bin Rahman alias Husaini. All participants are reminded to leave any questions you have for Yang Setia in the comment section. We will now continue with the next talk entitled Solutions to the Challenges of Fire Safety by Dr. Peng Tu. Before that, allow me to introduce our speaker. Dr. Peng Tu is the Assistant General Manager at Beijing GS Technology Company Limited, G-Safety, which is a high-tech company originated from the Institute of Public Safety Research in Tsinghua University and one of the leading enterprises in public safety and emergency management industry around the world. He is also the General Manager of the G-Safety's subsidiary company in Macau Special Administrative Region of China. He joined the Institute of Public Safety of Tsinghua University for postdoctoral research after receiving his PhD from University of London in 2014, focusing on the research of technologies and platform systems related to public safety and emergency management. Dr. Peng Tu also participated in the WHO-led Public Health Emergency Operations Center as a core member and author of the working group. Based on systematic research on global emergency management technology systems, he innovatively proposed a capacity building framework and implementation guidelines for the information systems and technology modules of the International Health Emergency Response Center. Ladies and gentlemen, with great honor, let us welcome Dr. Peng Tu.
Thanks very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, many thanks to UCTS, my learned colleagues and friends for organizing this wonderful webinar. And it is my great pleasure to have this opportunity to have this platform and learn from our very experienced Chief Mr. Kerodin and also other friends and colleagues in emergency management and fire safety. And please allow me to share my screen. Okay. So I would like to take this opportunity to share with you some thoughts and experience in terms of the challenge of fire safety. So at the beginning, please allow me to briefly introduce who we are and what we do. So Tsinghua University, as a lot of you may already know, is one of China's leading very top universities, and it was established in 1911. Actually, last week we just celebrated the 110th anniversary, and which was attended by the president, the Chinese president. So Tsinghua University, especially in recent years, has been performing quite strongly in international rankings, especially in technology and engineering disciplines. And it is also the initiator and the current chairman of Asian University Alliance, which aims to promote communication and academic collaboration between top universities around Asia and also the world. So the alumni of Tsinghua University include the political leaders like the current and the former Chinese president and premier, and also a number of prominent academics and scientists, including, for example, the professor Yang Zhenning, a Nobel laureate for physics and arguably the greatest living physicist nowadays. And it's also the home to, I think, arguably the largest number of state-level key laboratory in China, and it receives over $3 billion funding from the government every year. So the Institute of Public Safety Research, the IPSR, was founded in 2003, and if we recall, that was the year for the SARS outbreak. So the reason why we established the institute was the Chinese government realized in the face of emergency like an epidemic outbreak, China lacked a systematic ways and the methodology to handle this kind of emergency incident. So we founded this institute to carry out research and provide solutions for different levels of the government. And last year, in the year of last year, we had again another outbreak of the COVID-19. I think we can say that China, after initial impact, has been handling better now due to the work led by IPSR and also other institute and departments for the past 19 years. And in terms of public safety, actually the term public safety is quite broad. So what we mean by public safety, we basically talk about 4 areas. First of all, the technological disasters, including fire safety, and also explosions, hazmat leakage, and so on. And the public security, we're talking about social order and crimes, and so on. And natural disasters like a flood, earthquake, typhoon, and also, of course, public health. So we can see that it is so broad that no single department or agencies can possibly handle this broad topic. So the Institute of Public Safety is actually an umbrella under which there are over 15 different agencies in Tsinghua University. To the right, we can see a list of selected participating departments, and which are at least ranked the top 3 in China. So IPSR is now China's leading think tank and research base for the technology for public emergency management and public safety. It also actively participated in the international standardization. For example, the very first emergency capability assessment standard published by ISO was drafted by the IPSR team, and also we are still in the process of revising the public health emergency management framework for WHO. And we have a long-term close relationship with a lot of prominent enterprises and institutes around the world. Most notably in Beijing, we have a joint research center with the Boeing company, focusing on studying the fire disasters on aircraft, because it's a very specialized environment with different air pressure, and the behavior of fire spreading and smoke spreading is different than that on the ground. And for the UCTS, we are very pleased to form a collaborative relationship with UCTS from 2019. And in terms of fire safety, we have a very broad user base of our research results, and as well as our commercialized products. For example, in the city of Beijing, in the very center of the city of Beijing, the People's Hall, and also the Beijing Capital Airport. And we have also successes in Europe and also Latin America. Well, first of all, the Beijing Capital International Airport, for the most of the past 2 decades, I think, the Beijing Capital International Airport is ranked the top 3 in the world in terms of the throughput of passengers. And because of the sheer size and the complexity of the building, it is very difficult to manage to manage fire safety without the advanced technological systems. So we provide solutions to handle the entire process of fire safety management, and as well as risk assessment, to proactively identify risks and take according measures. And also a number of international high-profile events. And also for the rural part of China, we have a lot of cultural heritages, and we also provided the system and solutions services. And we have a joint research center around the world, and most notably in terms of fire safety, we have built this joint research center with the Belarusian Ministry of Emergency Management, and the center was opened by the Chinese ambassador as well as the first deputy minister. So look into the fire safety risks. So in the peacetime, the fire is one of the most dangerous threats to people's life and properties. In 2020, the year alone, there are more than 250,000 fire incidents in China. And if we look at the curve to the right, we can see that actually 2020 is one of the better years. So, but still, we have more than 1,000 deaths and almost 1,000 injuries. Before this webinar, I checked out the news. just this morning, like 6 hours ago, in the rural part of Beijing, there was a fire outbreak. It was the garbage collection point, the outdoor garbage collection point, and it was caught on fire. And then the heavy smokes was spotted, and tons of fire brigades was rushed to the scene. So even in Beijing, where the management was very tight and the technology is believed to be quite advanced, we still cannot eliminate the danger of fire safety totally. And there are some very heartbreaking cases in China and also around the world. Some of them are due to the lack of technological system, and some are due to the mismanagement. For example, in the one on the top left was a fire outbreak in a shopping mall. So the one of the sales assistants bring his rechargeable battery for his bicycle into the store and recharge it. And it caught on fire. And the people at the fire safety monitoring room was so preoccupied with online surfing and gaming, so he simply disabled the alarm system, and because he assumed that it was a false alarm. And before he realized it wasn't, it was too late. And for this event, 2 firefighters lost their precious life. And the bottom and the bottom right, there was a spa hotel in the northeast city of Harbin, which is known for its icy sceneries. And there was a tour group of elderly people from Beijing, and they stayed in that hotel. And because they simply lack the maintenance for the fire facilities, like sprinklers and the smoke detectors, they are in place, but because they lack the maintenance, they couldn't function. So in the middle of the night, some sparks was caused by the electric short circuit. So the hotel was in flame, and tons of elderly people lost their lives. And also around the world, like the Grenfell Tower fire in London, and also the Notre Dame fire in Paris, also they keep telling us that no matter how advanced you think you are, how well managed you are, the threat of fire is always there, and you simply cannot relax and overlook it. So based on those cases, we think we can learn some lessons. First of all, the pressure for the fire department, because a lot of the cases are due to the malfunctioning fire facilities, but you simply cannot expect the fire department to take care of everything, to inspect every room and to make sure it's working, because for most part of the world, the fire departments are understaffed and face a lot of working pressures. And also in terms of the system, they tend to be unprepared, because for some of the facility, they lack the proper fire protection and suppression measures like sprinkler and even the most basic one. And also, let alone the real-time monitoring, the awareness of how these facilities are functioning. And also the method that the fire safety are handled across the world are still kind of passive, because we are in the age of technology boom, like big data and the Internet of Things, but still it's not fully exploited. And we could have used this technology to spot latent risks beforehand in many cases. And also once there is indeed a fire incident, we lack the comprehensive capabilities to coordinate our response operation and decision making. In terms of Sarawak, I mentioned in 2019, we had the pleasure to have send a delegation to the UCTS, and we talked about a lot of topics in terms of public safety, and we know that learn that in Sarawak, the fire safety is one of the major concerns. And we also had the privilege to have a very brief tour to one of the longhouses. And the delegation was very impressed by the beauty of the structure and also the rich culture of the residents. So then after a month after that, the UCTS delegation visited us in China, and we kept on talking about the collaboration in fire safety and the arrangement of the workshop. And because of the COVID-19, we couldn't have a face-to-face event communication, but at least we now have this webinar, and I believe it will be a very good start for our collaboration. So based on our experience and preliminary knowledge about the longhouses, we think there are several typical risks in terms of this type of wooden buildings in rural areas. First of all, it's a wooden structure, so it's very difficult for the walls and the doors to stop the fire and smokes from spreading, and even the fire will burn through these doors. So the fire was will spread between adjacent rooms and also even adjacent buildings. And also the spreading is not limited to internal space, but also to can spread to external spaces, because the floor slabs and the walls, they are, because of wooden structure, they will inevitably have cracks and gaps. And we noticed that at least for a few longhouses, we have a basic information. There's still lack of basic separation methods, like the fire safety curtains and so on. And the density of the residents can be quite high, so which means there will be a lot of activities like cooking, like drinking and so on. So there will be and also the use of electrical appliance can also add to the risk of fire. And we noticed that there are limited number of fire detection equipment, and also the fire suppression facilities were not seen. So those all contribute to the risk of the fire safety in longhouses. So to make it more intuitive, we carry out a very simplified simulation of fire in a typical longhouses. So the setting of we built a very simple model of one of the longhouses. So this structure is 15 meters long, and it has two decks. The lower decks is for the keeping of the livestock, and the upper deck is for the residents or the apartments and the public corridors and so on. So the lower deck is 3 meters high, and the upper deck they have the stilts have different heights, resulting in roofs with inclination. So there is a top view of this model. So we set the ignition point of fire in one of the apartment rooms, and each of the apartment is 5 by 5 meters large, and also the corridor, the public corridor, is also 5 meters in its width. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so we run the simulation for the simulated time frame is 400 seconds. So we can see the room simply cannot contain the smokes, and because there is a lack of separation measure, the smoke quickly spread to the entire corridor and then slowly permeates into adjacent living rooms. And so we can clearly see that those doors and the walls are easily penetrated. And what we cannot, we don't see in this model is that it's because of the limit. Because it's a simplified model, we did not recreate the slots between living apartments. So in real life, this smoke while spreading into the corridor will also in the meantime spread directly to adjacent rooms. And so the disaster will develop much quicker than what this simulation shows. And also the fire source in this simulation, we set the power level to 500 kilowatts. It's comparable to the power of a burning sofa, a single person sofa, or or 2 or 3 burning cooking woks. So we think it's a reasonable simulation of like a cooking scenario, and or the electrical fire that's ignited one of the sofa furnitures in the living room. But in real life, the power source could be much more powerful, and also will accelerate the spreading and also deteriorate the aftermath of this disaster. And the simulation I showed was purely using in software, but I think in the future we can, as our collaboration continues, we can carry out more near to life simulations using real facilities. As what this picture shows is the state-of-the-art fire safety research facility in our branch institute in the city of Hefei, which the UCTS delegation visited in 2019. So this is a very large-scale fire safety research facility. So the length and all the different areas, the size, the height, the separation can also be adjusted in real time. And this will help us to simulate different type of structures, including the very high and vast atriums, or the very strange shaped roofs, and also the shaft, the elevator shafts and the stairwells. And more importantly, to our case, it is able to simulate the narrow and long space with or without separations. So experiments carried out using this facility will generate research results that's more closer to the real life cases, and this knowledge will help us in the future in the prevention and response in the future. And then I'll briefly talk about our preliminary solution, the smart safety solution, smart fire safety solution. So there are mainly, it's like a development roadmap. So first of all, at the very beginning, we have these conventional fire safety measures, like basic fire detections, a smoke temperature detector, and the protection, like separation, and the suppression, like the sprinkler and so on. And also we have the management from the fire department. Those are very conventional and very basic measures. And then we have with the Internet of Things technology, we are able to get everything connected, and including the video surveillance and also the real-time status of all these detectors and the fire safety facilities. And then we will have a massive amount of data. And how we are going to do about this data? We can use models and assessments tools to turn this data into useful information to guide us for the policy making and also the resource allocation and latent risk assessment, so that we can do our best to prevent the incident from happening in the first place. And although in terms of a technology advancement, there is a process of these three aspects, but in real life, those three are equally important. We can't have one of them without having the other two. So taking into account the specifics of a longhouses environment, we propose this preliminary deployment of fire safety facilities and site. So we have these basic smoke detectors and a simple sprinkler system and fire shutters. As I mentioned, in the wooden structure, the fire shutters cannot withhold the fire spreading totally, because the walls and the floors are all wooden. But at least it gives us some precious time to slow down the spreading of the toxic smoke for people to evacuate. And then we have some more technological elements here. So this is a surveillance camera. We can have them installed on the outside poles but also with our algorithm, we can integrate fire surveillance with security surveillance. So using our advanced algorithm, it can identify the features of the flames and smokes, especially in the outside, when the fires in the smoke detectors simply cannot function. And taking into account the risk of electrical fire, we can deploy the electrical risk detector, which monitors the various parameters of the circuit and generate alarms in time. And here is our patent indoor mobile water mist cart. So the fire extinguisher is good, but sometimes it's in most of the case it's simply not enough to efficiently suppress the fire. And this cart has an inbuilt high power pump. It can generate water mist, very fine water mist. And the particle of the water mist has a diameter between 200 and 400 micrometers. Those water mist is very efficient in absorbing heat, and also after it's evaporated, it creates an insulation around the fire, so the fire can be put down very efficiently. And the most of all, it's totally clean and pollution free. It's unlike a powder extinguishers. It's so safe for the people. And I think the chief, Mr. Carradine, mentioned that one of the directions of the fire department is to form volunteer team, fire safety team, and we can on site near the longhouses build those micro fire stations. So they can come in different shapes. They can have a middle scale, large scale, or mini scale. But we can have the essential fire facilities built inside, and depending on the telecommunication, we can also monitor the status of the micro station. Once someone retrieves the facility tools from the station, alarm will be triggered and sent to the fire department. So it's not so technical, but it certainly improves the self rescue and the mutual rescue ability of the community. So this is the fire and safety integrated surveillance that I mentioned. So this one is a purely software. So we at the front end we use the normal security camera, and the algorithm is totally with our servers. So because the fire has its own structure, texture, and movement, the algorithm is able to recognize flames in less than 20 seconds, and smokes less than 50 seconds. And also we can set the threshold manually. We have at least 10 level of threshold. And this is an improved version of visual fire detection using dual spectrum. So one of the camera is like the surveillance camera using visible light, and while the other is using near infrared or infrared spectrum. The benefit of that is the near NIR recognition is not affected by the sunshine. So if we use the pure visible light, sometimes the flare of the sun or in some area the flickering LEDs will generate interference. But using the NIR algorithm, we can rule out such interference, and this two recognition will be combined, and the judgment will be generated based on the fusion analysis. And this is electrical fire risk detector that I mentioned. So, for example, in China, actually more than 30% of house fire are caused by electrical fire, and in recent years, the electrical fire happens more than 40,000 every year. That, in average, is 4 deaths every day. So we have this patent electrical fire risk detector, which has a built-in communication. So it's not only capture the parameters on site, it also stores information and can send it out to the backend data center for further analysis. So here we come to the IoT part. So in our previous communication, we learned that there is some practical obstacles for the long houses because they lack the telecommunication facilities. But we think that there are ways to go around that obstacles for the communication. We can use the 3G or 4G, and if we don't, we can think about the narrowband Internet of Things or long-range, low-power telecommunication. Or at least if we have telephone lines, we can use that as well, because all these fire sensors, they require very small bandwidth. So we will find ways to handle that, but the connection, the IoT technology is definitely the way forward. Why is that? Because taking the electrical fire detector that I mentioned as an example, yes, it is able to capture the parameters and generate alarms. But we have a problem. We have to think about the threshold. For example, in terms of the loading. The loading could be different in different settings, and also even in the same environment, it will vary based on the behavior of the residents. So we can't have a universal threshold or principles to trigger the alarm. We have to have this together, this Internet of Things data, and carry out analysis to learn the pattern. So we have the pattern of normal and abnormal situations to make our analysis, predictions, and more accurate. Yes. And those are more IoT sensors for fire safety, but I didn't go into more detail because those are, in most of the cases, for urban settings. But it's also very important for from the government's perspective for the entire nation's fire safety, because for most of the fire disasters, the aftermath was caused by the malfunctioning facilities. So it is so crucial. I cannot overstate it. The importance of monitoring the fire facility operation status. So this is a kind of ideal smart fire safety solutions. So at the bottom, we have these Internet of Things sensors, video surveillance, specialized equipment, and others. And then the information goes through our data platform and be transformed into knowledge and informations, and which will be used by different applications. And ideally, it will support the fire department, the property owners, the residents, and the general public, everyone involved. So I'll take, because of the limits of time, I'll just go through some of the key core function modules. First of all, the remote fire safety monitoring, as mentioned, it's focused on the monitoring of the operation status of fire facilities. Because if we can make sure that they are working, it's all meaningless. And using those, if we have access to a large number of fire detectors, all the different sensors, then we are bound to have so many alarms. So, and then the command centers will be swamped by alarms, and they simply cannot tell which one is real and which one is false, and we will be exhausted. So we carried out this research and come up with this algorithm to reduce the number of false alarms. Remember, we have this facility to construct different types of buildings. So using these buildings, we carried out research on the spatial and the temporal relationship of the fire smoke spreading and the sensor triggering. So we have these patterns of the time sequence and the spatial sequence of the triggering of the sensors in different types of buildings. So using this criteria, we can rule out 99% of the false alarm. This is widely used in our fire control centers in China. And the fire supervision and management, we have these information tools and the mobile apps and so on for the fire department, of property owners, the constructor, fire safety contractors, and also even the general public, to get everyone involved to maximize our data collection and to generate the fire risk situations. For example, in real life, the maintenance. Some of them, the problem of maintenance is that the property owners or the fire department cannot know whether the contractor has really carried out the maintenance work. But with our very convenient tools like mobile app and Bluetooth tags and QR codes, every maintenance operation is recorded in full. So, and including the maintenance provider's location and the status of the service devices before and after the service. So everything is recorded, and so we rule out to our best extent the problem of mismanagement. And using this comprehensive knowledge, the government, the authority is able to formulate this fire risk analysis map and pre-allocate resources to those most risky areas. And when there is really a fire breakout, the system will integrate the map of risk and also the real-time monitoring of all the status of the building to assist our firefighters. First of all, sorry. So there is an onboard system on the fire trucks, for example. So this onboard terminals is able to receive information from the field, like the video surveillance, and from the backend command control center, like the directions and so on. So they can get themselves prepared even before they arrive at the scene. And also the command control center can view in real time the roadside surveillance camera and also the onboard surveillance. So the idea is to keep everyone on the same page. And it's also able to facilitate every party involved in fire safety, fire disaster response to share different types of information, like including videos, graphics, audios, and maps and documents and so on. So everyone is kept on the same page. Everything is synchronized. And these are the digitalization of fire equipment. So in addition to the onboard terminals that I mentioned, we can also, like how we monitor the status of fire facilities in the buildings, we can monitor the status of the fire trucks, so on. And again, and also one of the greatest threats to firefighters is once they enter into the scene of the building, the backend lacks ways to know their real-time situation, like their whereabouts or their personal health. So we have this wearable and can communicate with the command control center in real time, and also it captures the vital life signs like the pulses, the breath rate of the firefighters in real time. And also we have this the portable, the Wi-Fi telecommunication units built in those digital fire trucks, so that we can location the firefighters once they are inside the building. So that was I was mainly talking about the system used for fire prevention and fire response. But one of the main concerns, like Mr. Carradine mentioned, is education, and so I would like to emphasize the importance of digital training and drilling. So those are some example of our digital planning and the drilling systems. So basically, we build the 3D building information model, and then with the help of technology, these firefighters and maybe the community fire safety operators can have this immersive experience and carry out the planning and interact, and also even interact with some of the high risk entities like the container of hazmat. So this is very valuable because we don't have disaster happening every day, and we certainly don't want that. But we want everyone to get prepared as best as we can, because knowing the knowledge is not enough. We have to build those muscle reactions, because once the incident strikes, you may be caught in a state where you don't know how to act. But once we are so familiar with that, it simply becomes a subconscious reaction, and that will be a very efficient. So this kind of system was used first in 2008 Beijing Olympics, because a lot of the venues wasn't complete till very close to the date of opening, and due to security reasons, some of emergency responders were not allowed to familiarize themselves with the venue in the real physical settings. So we developed this system to help them to prepare and train. And it is also very important to engage the public, because at the end of the day, it is their house, it is their residence, and they are the one that's closest to the scene of the incident. So if they have the ability to prevent and properly react to the incident, I think the success rate of prevention and fire suppression will increase notably. So we have devised this very convenient and portable virtual reality fire safety experience tools. So they can have a very near to life experience of how this fire can break out and how one can best react. All these settings can be customized to reflect the real environment they live in. And we can even have this like relatively larger scale permanent education center where we can have a more we can have a larger equipment to create a more vivid experience for the public. So these because as I mentioned, the self rescue and the mutual rescue is far more important and sometimes more effective than waiting for the government to come to the scene. So some of the closing thoughts. So the significance of fire safety cannot be overstated, and the fire safety is not just for the urban area or the rural area; it's for the entire society. And for the rural area, taking longhouses as example, there are practical challenges and difficulties that we simply have to face to recognize, for example, the logistics and so on. So we have to think of ways to change, to adopt the technologies to focus on the proactive detection and prevention of the fire from the happening in the same place in the first place. But also we have to recognize there is a lack in our ICT, internet communication, telecommunication infrastructure that the government or the industry should commit to change, to improve that, to provide so that the better connectivities between the rural area and the urban area can be realized. And then the public engagement and public education is very crucial. So that wraps up my talk today. And thank you very much, Telemakasi. I don't know if I got that right, but the IPLSR looks forward to further collaboration and a contribution to a safer Sarawak. And thanks very much.
Thank you, Dr. Peng Tu. Again, all participants are reminded to leave your questions for Dr. Tu in the comments section. Now let us move on to the third speaker of the day, Dr. Jianguo Chen. Dr. Chen is an associate professor at the Institute of Public Safety Research in Tsinghua University, Beijing, China. He is a member of China Association of Public Safety Technology and has more than 15 years of experience in public safety technologies and emergency management and response. He has participated in WHO EOC Net projects as a core member for the Systematic Review of Communication Technologies and Infrastructure for Public Health Emergency Operations Center. He was also a temporary expert to the National Emergency Management Office under the Cabinet Office for China National Emergency Response Platform project for more than 2 years since 2006. From 11 March 2009 until 8 September 2009, he acted as a visiting scholar in Illinois Fire Service Institute, UIUC, working on international collaboration and emergency management and technology research. Dr. Chen has been the principal of several government-funded national-level research projects. His main areas of research interest include emergency operations command and coordination, disaster derivation and escalation, emergency resource management, emergency operations center framework, and others. Ladies and gentlemen, with the title Fire Safety for Ancient Buildings, Solutions and Cases, let us welcome Associate Professor Dr. Jianguo Chen.
Good morning, Vice Chancellor, Mr. Kurudin Draman, dear distinguished friends on this webinar. It's my great honor to have this opportunity to share some of our experience and knowledge on the fire safety area. So let me share my PPT. Okay, so the fire safety and for the ancient buildings in China is also very important. Firstly, I want to introduce some of the background of Tsinghua University IPSR, especially on the fire safety. In our university, we have a laboratory for focus on the fire safety research and development. Mainly, we have 5 directions. The first one is the research on the fire detection and extinguishing. Second one is the remote fire detection technology. The third one is operation status diagnostics for fire protection facilities. And the fourth one is identification and prevention of fire and explosion risks. And the final direction is for the fire accident investigation. For the first research area, we mainly focus on the latest technology, such as the laser probe for the fire detection technology for the large confined space. For example, on the modern cities, more and more large confined space, such as the theaters, the meeting halls, the airport, and so on, they have very large inner space. For this space, the traditional fire detection technology do not work well. So we use the probe laser beam to measure the concentration of the smoke particles using the optical path methodology. You can see from the figure that if space, large space, the height is greater than 12 meters, there will be a heat barrier in the space. So if the normal traditional fire detector installed on the ceiling of this building, he will not detect the fire instantly. So we try to solve these problems and we develop our own technology. The second one is how to reduce the false alarm. In China, we have researched more than 5 million alarm cases, and we find only among them is 50,000 of the alarm is the true alarm, but more than 99% of the alarm is a false alarm. So we using data fusion technology to get this building micro element feasibility, and we can enhance the detection and the alarm the accuracy. Here is some of the models. For example, if we fusion the 3 detectors to one model, then the alarm accuracy can be more well than the single detector. And if we fusion the data for more than 6 or more than 8 detectors, then the accuracy can be more better. We also establish a real scale, a full-scale experimental infrastructure. Inside this infrastructure, we can simulate a long corridor and elevator, the confined space, the inside the room, and outside, and so on. So through this simulation, the recognition rate of the fire alarm can be increased by 144 times than the older methods. After that, we overcome the technical obstacles for establishing a national level super large scale fire safety monitoring system. Yeah, so this is one of our work. The second direction is our remote fire detection. In China mainland, so we using the remote fire detection technology more and more times. For example, we have more than 20 companies that they have their own fire detectors installed in every buildings. But how to combine these different protocols? So we developed a universal cloud protocol gateway based on the open source system and the DLL dynamic loading library. So with this technology, the front end and the back end collaborative fire protection protocol service center can be connect all of these linkage hosts available on the market. Another technology is to do the prediction of the fire protection facilities. These facilities, such as the fire hose, the water pump, sprinklers, and so on, because after several months or years of usage, they will get out of life. But how to predict and to estimate the operation status is very important. So we build a models to do the condition monitoring for diagnosis, hidden danger investigation, and predictive maintenance technology. Another research area is for the fire and explosion risks identification. In the confined space or in some chemical plant, the fire will happen with explosion. So we try to estimate the energy, and this energy helps to estimate the consequence of the death tolls. So we build our own models to help do decision making for the fire department. The fifth direction I've mentioned is fire accident investigation. So because more and more fires happens, and if it causes large casualty or economic loss, then the government should investigate the originate of the fire, what is happening, reasons, and so on. So we built our laboratory. This is a national level laboratory to help the government to do this investigation. Okay, so the second part, I want to focus on the fire risks in ancient buildings. In China, it's very similar to Sarawak, because we have old history and we have many ancient village or ancient buildings. 10 years ago, in a village on south west of China, a fire broke, and suddenly it destroyed more than 100 houses, including 2 village gates, and even no casualties, but it was a very heavy damage, because this village almost disappeared. From then on, the China government and the local government try to solve such kind of problem. So the most important is how to investigate and eliminate the hidden dangers. From the picture, you can see the national level, the fire department, and the local governor. They visited these places and finally decided to rely on the smart city construction to build a smart firefighting platform to help the fire protection. So during this work, we try to analyze what is the main challenge for these old buildings. The The first challenge is because it's a flammable structure. Most of them are wooden structure, have many combustible materials everywhere, and also insufficient firefighting facilities. The second one is even they have the fire facilities, but it's lack of supervision. So this is also a main challenge. The third one is the timed alarm taking and disposal. So if alarm happened or never happened, then it's hard to respond. If an alarm was taken, but the analysis and the decision was late, then it also not help. So we try to solve the problem, such as how to resolve the information island problem, how to enhance the problem of the ineffective command and control, and the timely disposal. Okay, so the fourth challenge is if the firefighters and the rescue force are on site, how to enhance the field operation. If they do not have enough information to support from the local, from the field operation teams to the field operation command centers, if they do not have information sharing, then it will be inadequate decision making and coordination. So all these are main challenges. The ancient buildings in China, we have many cases like ancient cities, ancient towns, the cultural relics, the ancient buildings, and the traditional villages with wooden brick structures. Okay, so here is some of the picture. I will show you example in Yunnan province. This province is have a very old history, and in the southern west of China, one of the town named Dali, it has 4 famous historical and cultural cities and 7 famous historical towns and 125 traditional villages and more than 100 ancient buildings. So from the picture, we can see many of these. So they asked Tsinghua University to help them to design an architecture how to solve the fire risks in these ancient areas and buildings. So our work, the first one is to find the gap. So in these PPT slides, you can see they have 6 problems. The first one is a low fire resistance because of the brick wood structure. The second one is many disaster factors. For example, these ancient buildings, it have more tourists coming. The people gathered, the population are increasing, and because of the modern lifestyle, so they began to using many fire or electricity or oil or gas. So all these are disaster factors more than the old times. The third one is belated alarms. We found that their traditional management model, as alarm information cannot be transmitted to the command center in time, and the alarm is not timely due to the belated detection and unclear expression from the witness. The fourth one is incomplete emergency rescue preparedness. Okay, so the fifth is insufficient firefighting facilities. And the last one is the lack of information support. So this is the main challenge. In this city, from 2014 and 2015, there have been very heavy fire happened, and it caused a very heavy loss. So we provide them. Finally, we provide them an architecture of the technical structure using our fire safety technology. From this picture, you can see for the lower level, we will put our sensors. So these sensors are very special, that it could be fitted with the scenario of these old ancient buildings. This detector, some of them are very different from the normal detectors in the concrete structure buildings, because some of them cannot be used in these ancient buildings to avoid the unnecessary destroy of the building itself. After we deploy this data sensors and also some fire fighting infrastructure, we try to collect this data from this database. So the database including the report information, the monitoring information, the hazard information, the maintenance information, and the detection information. Then on this data, we provide the different application systems. For example, one of them is the remote monitoring systems. The second one is the fire comprehensive prevention systems, the risk dynamic assessment systems, and the decision-making support systems, the service intelligence systems, the pre-plan systems, the rescue force management system, and the big data application systems. So some of them, we have a very mature products. My colleague Dr. Du have mentioned we using the cloud service platform to combine all of the detectors from different companies, and we using this data and develop it some app and web service application to enable the fire supervision personnel or the firefighter or the management team to get the real situation of these ancient buildings, of the situation of the risk. And also we monitor all this fire infrastructure using the IoT terminals. For example, the most important is we should make sure that the fire hydrant have enough water and water pressure. So we deploy our own sensors into this fire infrastructure to get the real information of the operation of this infrastructure. Okay, so some here are some successful cases. In last year, we helped the this older city named the Weisan ancient city. The first phase of this project covers 30,000 square meters, ranging from the fire safety assessment to the smart fire socialized service. The fire safety status of ancient cities is monitored in the whole period, and the fire safety risk is evaluated in real time and intelligently. So currently it runs real time, 7/24 to protect the ancient city. This is some of the interface of our systems. It monitors the alarm information, the infrastructure, abnormal situation, the ongoing fire alarm handling, the rescue force, and so on. For example, we build a detailed response process. If an IoT device sends an alarm information, then our cloud platform will operate and in different scenario, and will finally until the alarm is end, or this case come to an end. Here is some of the example. In the monitor room, formerly they found that the responsible people were out of service. But if we're using our AI technology, we will automatically find if this responsible person is online or not. On the left image, all this fire hydrant, the water level, the pressure of this hydrant is monitored online, and so on. And for the electricity fire risk, we put our sensors in all these ancient buildings electricity infrastructure. So under this, we could monitor the circuit intense, the temperature of all these areas. And we using the big data technology to help them do decision making and optimize their management models. Okay, so after the using of our system, you can see from the comparison that the accuracy rate, the fire hazard, the operation standard rate have enhanced apparently. Okay, so I just want to share some of our experience from Tsinghua University. We hope that in the near future we could collaborate between both universities, from UCTS and Tsinghua, and from both government. Mr. Kiruddin Raman have mentioned about the 5E approach. I'm very impressive, because in China currently we also have a similar approach. We named it as 4C approach. That means the 4 capability. The first capability is to let the stakeholders to enhance their fire risk prevention capability. The second one is to enhance the capability of the initial stage fire fighting. The third capability is a fire evacuation and rescue capability, and the last one is training and education capability. So I think both sides we have a similar concept and experience. So today, because it's limited time, so I just very great honor to share our experience. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Django Chen. Again, please leave your questions for Dr. Chen in the comments section. Ladies and gentlemen, now let us continue with the Q&A session. I will now read all the questions that had been compiled from the comment sections. So question number 1, directed to Tuan Khairuddin. From the presentations, the presentation was an eye-opener to how advanced fire safety solutions can be. Is it possible to integrate what has been proposed in the context of our Sarawak, our state, Sarawak?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim for that question. Actually, presentation by both experts, Professor Peng, Dr. Peng and Professor Cheng. We have to look into what is the possibilities. And so far, based on my experience when we look after Kuala Lumpur, we try to bring as many possible collaboration, the best solution, the best practices. And we are open. If we look at our system that happened in Malaysia itself, in Kuala Lumpur and also like in Sarawak, it means the openness of fire services to collaborate with other agencies to make sure that fire safety becomes total fire safety, whereby the application of 4 and 4C, whatever concept that go back to the fire safety of people. The integration is most suitable. We are ready for that. The only thing, of course, dollar and cents. Anything that we want to do involve cost. And when you look at the ideas, we have good ideas. But when we are to implement the ideas, it's always go back to the monetary, go back to the funding, whether we ever capable to do that. That's why when the last message that we mentioned about the people is how we can minimize the dependency on the government itself. The people itself, people, and people. And whatever system we introduce, for example, like since we look at in the West, US, UK, all the good system they have, even in Japan. I was in Japan in 1997. We look at the system, very good. But when you look at the fire happened in there, Tokyo, in a major city, it still happen. It's happening. But you go back to that, not only the how good the system, that the best practices is the people itself. When you look at our ancient Chinese state, any country, any nation, if you want to be good, not the system, but the people. If people willing to change, then we can do something. This is something. It's my vision. I've been almost 32 years in service. The people is how you see the policy makers, the people who regulate the policy, who are the enforce the policy, who are going to implement. For example, in terms of fire service, the fire service itself. We have to implement the Fire Service Act, Uniform Wording by Law. The law is there, it's in place. But whether the people willing to work together to preach what is stated in the law, to make sure that total fire safety can be applied, to make sure that everybody is safe. This is very clear. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Next question, question number 2, also directed to Tuan Khairuddin. Has there been any research conducted to evaluate the effectiveness of the preventive programs? If so, what are the findings?
Okay, when we look at what called proper fire training, that's why I've been talking, try to sit down with UNIMAS or any university to do the proper study, because as operational officer at Bomba, we look at the very basic information on the number of losses and number of what we said through for the particular year. When you look at in 2018, the number of losses is 18.12%, but 2019 11.0%, but 2020 7.68%. If you look at that the whole international norm is 10% losses, a lot in any fire. This means respond within 10 minutes, we can reduce the losses. And when we look at what we did, or when we start introducing the program, also the creating the awareness among the community, they should be the first response. The first part is critical. They are responding to the what, and it shows that through the statistic that 2018 18.1%, 2019 11.8%, it start dropping. This means the amount of losses will already reduced to this one. This is what we observe. This is very basic analysis. But if there's a university really going like UCS to go detail or one, because maybe people want to do the PhD on analysis of how the approach that did total fire safety for 5E approach by Bomba Sarawak, they show to the statistics. It can be done, and I'm glad to work together. We can collaborate and to show that in terms of show intensity. The most important thing. And most importantly, what I see is very positive, whereby people in Sarawak start embracing the knowledge of safety culture, and it shows that. So for example, like, last year by 21 cases 2019, we observed that people start respond to the fire before the arrival of bomba. Not say that when bomba didn't respond that bomba doesn't do anything. No, but indirectly we are behind the scene. For example, when you see a good movie, you can see only the hero, the heroine, but those the filmmaker, the director, or those people behind the scene that doing to make the film so good, people never look at it. That's why when there's a fire, people only talk about it. But the effort with that, the statistics, even when we show to the public don't care much what it is. But if the academic, the people in the university can do proper study and present it to the higher authority on the real study, it means third party analysis, because that will be strengthen our 5E approach, whereby engineering, education, engineering management show a good result. That means first 5 minutes is proven. That means first 5 minutes fire can be tackled by the people itself. Because a great fire can be extinguished by a cup of water if you strike at the right time. And 99% of fire happen because of human negligence. And when you apply 3 keys, I just interested that precaution, prevention, and protection, inshallah, there's no reason why you are facing this. It can be prevented. How good we are? So everybody must have their role. For example, critical issue, type of component, the policy maker, the law itself, the builders. This is something that we must do. And if you go back to the occupiers, who are going to occupy that particular building? For example, you build long houses, the long houses people, you build a factory, the factory workers, you build what called oil and gas plant. So people are working there. So how they look into that one, how they can manage. When you look at comparison, even you look at the high hazard facilities, Pengerang, even look at Bintulu itself. When you look at the safety standards, it's very high, but still explosion happening, still a small fire happening because of human negligence. Because system is good. What mentioned by Dr. Peng and also Professor Chen, the system you look at, so tremendously very good. But the people who are going to do manning the system, you see, the system would fail, but the people. So when I said that people, this is very good. We are the ones who determine whether we are safe or not. Is also by us. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Next question is directed towards Dr. Peng Tu. What kind of software do you use for the fire simulation?
Okay, in terms of the simulation I presented in my slides, that was a very simplified simulation. So for this kind of simulation, we basically use the very common simulators, like including like the fire dynamics simulator, and also our customized simulating program based on the like OpenFOAM platform and so on. So in particular, what kind of simulator used for this simulation, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it'll be one of the two that I mentioned. But I'd like to stress that our emphasis of research nowadays is to carry out large-scale real experiments using the adjustable structural platform, like the one I mentioned in my slides. So we believe that this kind of experiment provides more valuable data for our research. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question number 4, is directed towards both Dr. Tu and Dr. Chen. From the advanced technology introduced throughout the session, what is the minimum requirement that is needed for the systems to be applied in terms of Sarawak's condition?
Hi. In terms of the minimum requirement, I think there are well, we can have we can think of that from different angles. First of all, the minimum requirement for the technological infrastructure, so as I mentioned, telecommunication. That's one of the core prerequisites for any smart technologies, and of course, some of the system can operate in standalone motions, like most of the functions of visual-based flame detection and some part of the electrical fire risk detection and so on. But to exploit the full potential of the system, at least we should have a telecommunication capability. But taking into account the specific limitation of the rural area, for example, the long houses, we don't necessarily have those type of fast connections like we have in the big cities. Because the data rates of those sensors are quite small, like several dozens kbps in the measure of that. So we can make use of those long range, low power telecommunication methods. For example, the LoRa or narrowband IoT. So where we can, for example, set up a LoRa base station, which covers like several, I think up to 50 kilometers in its in radius. And also we can also, depending on the specific geographic environment, we can set up a microwave communication and so on. The idea is to have at least some connectivity to the rural area and back to our analysis data center. That was for the infrastructure. And in terms of the business, I think the emphasis should be on the prevention. So it's better that we keep the risk at bay rather than respond to it, and no matter how rapid that would be. So the monitoring of fire and also the operation status of fire facilities, I think is crucial. And also we have there are some modules which I might not have discussed in detail to facilitate the fire department to carry out inspections and so on. That is also very important because in some cases there must be some inspections and supervision in place to encourage the proper maintenance and installation of the fire facilities. So that's my personal idea on the very minimum of the business system. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Du. I think that's all the questions that we have today. I hope that everyone will walk away from today's webinar with invaluable information and knowledge on fire safety challenges, especially in Sarawak, and the future solutions to these challenges. Before we draw the curtain on today's webinar, I would like to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, and a special thanks to all committee members for organizing this webinar. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all our speakers today, Yang Setia Hiruddin bin Rahman alias Husaini, Associate Professor Dr. Chen Juangbo, and Dr. Peng Du for their invaluable input in today's webinar. So thank you all for our speakers. Okay, so please be reminded to use the sign-out code shown at the screen and fill in the attached questionnaire for your CPD or CCD points. That's all, everyone. Happy fasting and have a good day. Goodbye.